Mr. Poppy is quite honestly the worst TA I've ever seen in my life. At no point through the whole film does he actually help or assist the teacher. Yes guys, Mr. P here. Now yesterday we were watching a film as a family. I let the children choose a film to watch. They wanted to watch a Christmassy one, and so we decided on Nativity. Now we've watched the film before and we always enjoy it, and I know it's not trying to accurately depict life in a primary school classroom. The sort of wackiness, bonkers plot is the appealing part of it. But I don't know what it was yesterday, whether it was the mood I was in and just how stressful it is being in school at the minute, but I just couldn't help watching it saying, that'd never happen, that'd never happen, that'd never happen. So I thought I'd share a couple of my thoughts about how ludicrous the depiction of a primary school actually is in the film Nativity. Within 2 minutes of the film starting, I'm already wound up. When Mr. Madden says he wants to be a primary school teacher, his two friends rip him to shreds. Those who can't teach teach primary school. Subsequently, when he qualifies to be a primary school teacher, his missus literally leaves him without saying anything and does one to the other side of the world. Not to become a Hollywood producer or anything like that, just to be a secretary, but literally moves to the other side of the world to not be with someone who works as a primary school teacher. The other bloke, Gordon Shakespeare, takes the mick out of Mr. Madden for becoming a teacher, then becomes a teacher himself, the hypocrite. The Alan Carr character is utterly ridiculous. Who in the world's job is it to go around a town just watching kids' nativities and then slating them in a newspaper? It's ludicrous. Talk about job's worth. I mean, who's got the time for that? And I'm not being funny, if you were that way inclined where you got a buzz off watching kids' nativities non-stop, you probably wouldn't get a DBS to go in a school. Mr. Madden bikes into school every single day. Where are his bags upon bags of marking? The head teacher is probably up there as one of the worst leaders I've come across. Doesn't even have the courtesy to speak to the staff before announcing in front of the whole school that they're doing the Christmas show. You'd at least have a staff meeting. She then states that the pinnacle of her career is going to be putting on this Christmas show. Why would it not be on children's progress, their academic achievement, or just developing them as well-rounded individuals? There's a scene where all the staff are cheersing in the staff room. There's no lid on a single mug. Mr. Poppy is quite honestly the worst TA I've ever seen in my life. At no point through the whole film does he actually help or assist the teacher. And it just undermines the incredible hard work that TAs do when you've got this character being depicted. There's a scene where Mr. Madden goes home to his house and it's got no decorations up at all. I think they try and infer that he hates Christmas. Actually, it's the fact he just doesn't have the time. When Mr. Poppy hears about Hollywood, he walks through the school corridor ripping things off a classroom display. If he was an actual TA, there is no way he'd do that if he knew the time and effort it actually takes to put up a display. When they're actually auditioning for parts of the play, who is looking after the rest of the class? How Mr. Madden hasn't reported Mr. Poppy for workplace bullying, I'll never know. Constantly telling lies, constantly forcing him to do things he shouldn't do, just constantly undermining him in front of the children, even going to his ex's parents' house and then telling lies about him as well. Mr. Madden can't do a thing because Mr. Poppy's related to the head. At one point, Mr. Poppy sings a little bit of a verse and then the rest of the class just pick it up like that. Have you ever known a group of children to be able to sing a song that quickly straight away? I normally have to play a song on loop for 4 days straight before the children get the first line. How they go about doing a school trip, I'll never know. Like it doesn't take months upon months of preparation and risk assessments and evolve form, permission slips, all that jazz, and they end up going to an actual maternity ward. Can you imagine the letters of complaint? On a more positive note, Bobby is my favourite character out of everyone. He is pure class, although he seems to have his own uniform policy. The fight scene, I mean, teachers throwing children to the ground and have no repercussions. They end up keeping their jobs because they've got to put on a nativity. At one point, Mr. Madden just does one and decides to go to LA for a few days. I mean, how much PPA does this guy have? And don't even get me started on the fact he just bundles 2 kids with him as well. As if. The only accurate part is the fact he has to walk around all of LA because clearly his teacher paycheck can't afford him to take taxis everywhere. They literally rob from a farm and the head's okay with it. Of all of this, the most unbelievable fact is at one point Mr. Madden actually says he has 24 children in his class. 24? Try 36. And the whole competitive element of this nativity play, I don't understand. Why is it so important to get a positive review from this newspaper guy like it leads to anything? It's not going to lead to more sales. Hey darling, are you going to come and watch Jane's play tonight? Well, I was going to go and watch my own child, but I've just read this news report about St. Cuthbert's down the road. Forget Jane, I'm off to see their play. When Mr. Madden realises that he needs to do this nativity, he says to his class, meet me in the hall in 10 minutes. What teacher could ever just leave their class to navigate their own way to the hall? And what class of children knows how long 10 minutes actually is? The kid on the soundboard during the play, unbelievable. The only time I've let a child touch any sort of technology is just the right arrow to move the next slide on the PowerPoint. The guy in the crowd who has his face painted, what is that all about? And the fact that when all the lights go off, the teacher gives every single child a lit candle. A recipe for disaster. That can only be topped by Angel Gabriel coming down on the cables. I mean, in what world would you be able to do that with a 9-year-old? But apart from all those slight issues I have as a teacher, I can't help but love the film. It's a cracker. Give it a watch.